Okay. All right. So, welcome, like all newly admitted, to the MAT program. It's very nice to meet you guys. I know you've received some emails from me. I'm Brandy Blackburn. I'm the director for professional education services, which our office, you guys will get to know really well, because almost every single semester you will have a clinical during the program, and our office oversees the clinicals, as well as if some of you guys, I think there's a few of you guys that have already transitioned over to option 6, but if you are a traditional currently MAT student and you end up transitioning to option 6, and if you don't know what that is, we will be referencing it later. Our office will handle that as well. We also will help you guys at the end of the program with your paperwork for licensure and with EPSB. So we're kind of, your main contact, along with Dr. Blakely as MAT coordinator. But Miss Baker, that's on here, and wave because it says Brandy Blackburn, but she logged in as me at a different meeting last week. So, but her name is Angela Baker. She's, and I'll let her introduce herself and talk a little bit about herself in a minute too. And then we also have some of our clinical educators that are on, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So your clinical educator might be on here, or they might not be. It just depends on who you're assigned to. You guys will be receiving emails from your clinical educator with your placements. Those of you that are traditional students that are receiving a placement that aren't option 6, you'll be getting that email from your clinical educator. If they have the placement right now, we're still waiting on some. We're working as hard as we can to get those. We have over 1,000 clinical students this semester, and wow, there are 4 of us in the office. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a little daunting at times. And especially because you have the changeover from fall to spring, and you have that winter break in the middle, so it doesn't give us a lot of time to be working on things. So if we don't get them in tomorrow, then we will work on them upon our return next week, depending upon when weather and if we are here on Monday. But we'll get those for you
No,
as soon as we can. So just
the
don't worry.
weather looks a little scary.
I
Yeah,
know. It's like I haven't, who knows? Kentucky. I
I
mean, we can turn
know.
around and we have nothing, or maybe we'll get 30 inches. I don't know.
Well, and
I know.
I will guarantee you, even if EKU is in session Monday, your school districts will not be in session
Yeah.
on Monday, so you don't need a
Yeah,
clinical placement on Monday.
exactly.
So, yeah. So before we get started, like, kicking off with the actual presentation, I'm going to give the others in our college the chance to introduce themselves to you guys and what they do here at Eastern, and how they will play a role in your program. So I'm going to let Dr. Blakely say a couple things, and then we'll move on to our to Miss Baker, and then our CEs that are in attendance.
Hi, everyone. I think you all already know me. You might not remember my face, but we would have chatted at least once and perhaps had an interview together in the last few minutes, getting you ready for this January start this week. So I hope that things went well on Tuesday, Wednesday for you, and that EGC 820 is off to a great start. You're in class with a wonderful professor for that class who has a lot of experience with that, and I know that she's going to take good care of you. I have a few PowerPoint slides at the end to share some additional information with you, but I'm going to let the clinical people lead this meeting tonight. Brandy does an amazing job with that department.
Thank you. All right, Angela, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay, as she said, I am not Brandy Blackburn. I led a meeting last week and it went to my work one instead of my non-work one to let me in tonight. So I'm the clinical placement coordinator, and yes, I'm the person I guess you could yell at. I have worked diligently. I've sent emails. I've called schools. I've done a little bit of everything. And I know a lot of principals across the state. So anywhere that you've landed, that if I know somebody there, you better bet that I've called them and said, "Hey, will you take one of our students?" I do that, and then I also help keep our clinical educators informed. I do training for new folks that come on board with us. I am a retired teacher myself. I taught high school English, and then moved to central office and was an instructional coach and a DPP. And I even worked for KDE for a while in the lowest performing all boy middle school in the state, in Jefferson County. So I know, like I said, I know people across the state. Thrilled. This is such a great program. Thrilled that you're with us, Dr. Blakely. I just can't say enough good things about how closely she works with us and makes our job so much easier. So you're in great hands, and I promise I'm right on the cusp of getting your placement. Sometimes it's just down to, okay, the principal has responded and they're saying, let me check with my teachers. So we're pretty close. I look by the end of next week, we'll have everybody placed. So welcome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And then Danielle, if you will introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle Blankenship. I've been a clinical educator for a couple of years, and this year I'm going to be the lead on CED 810 and 830. So I'll basically just be fielding a lot of questions and answering any questions that you guys might have.
You. And then we've got a couple of our clinical educators for 810 in attendance. We'll start with Nicole Marshall.
Okay, I am Nicole Marshall. I am a clinical educator. I am new to this. I am a recently retired teacher, instructional coach, principal, slash recruiter and I am looking forward to working and coaching and helping each one of you.
And Mindy, you'll introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mindy Mills, and this will be my first semester being a clinical educator. So excited to jump in and support you guys. I recently retired last June from 34-year career in education, gamut of middle school math teacher. I was an elementary principal, a district office, a federal program. So a lot of different experiences through that. So excited to work with you.
Yeah, so as you can see, guys, you have got a plethora of people to rely on and go to and that are going to be mentors for you. You know, all of our clinical educators, their backgrounds run the gamut, you know, in P12, and they're going to, you know, that's what they, you know, they basically, I say they failed at retirement, most of our clinical educators, because they, you know, they just want to help you guys and be out there, because I can tell you they don't get paid enough for what they do. They're doing it because they love it. So lean on them. That's what they're there for. They don't care. No question is stupid. Reach out to them. Your assigned clinical educator will be your first line person to reach out to. If they cannot answer your question, and bear with them, because a couple of you know, the ones that are 810 this semester are new clinical educators. So you know, they're going to have questions. You know, they're not going to necessarily know the answer for you right away. They're going to have to go find out, and that's where Miss Blankenship comes into play as the lead. They're going to go to her, you know, and if hopefully she can answer it. If she can't, then she'll come to our office, starting with Miss Baker, and you know, we kind of just try to, you know, go up the chain, because again, like I said, there's 1,000 of you guys, and so we try to split the workload as much as we can, so that we can get those answers to you guys as quickly as we can. So we're gonna, like I said, we've got a PowerPoint for you guys. We're gonna go ahead and kick off with that. You know, basically just going through the requirements for 810. Just kind of an overview of what to expect clinical wise throughout the program. The differences, I'm going to kind of highlight the differences between those of you guys that are traditional versus if you're option 6, and the little bit of a differences in expectations and requirements for that. And then you guys, and then I think, like I said, Dr. Blakely had said she had a few slides also at the end that she wants to go through, and then we can open it up for you guys to ask us questions that you have. So let me go ahead.
Brandy, let me interrupt for just 1 second. Guys, I know we've been talking a lot about this weather coming in, and I can't think of a better time for you all to spend your time than to going on your Canvas course and opening up your syllabus and reading it from beginning to end and also reading your student handbook. There is so much information in there. And a lot of times the answers you're seeking are going to be in there and you won't even need to email these folks that she's mentioned. I update them every semester. Brandy makes sure that I, include anything that's up and coming. Dr. Blakely will let us know if there's things that, that she wants to share. We update those every semester. So please, please, please take the time and read those, and you'll get a lot of questions answered along with this presentation today. Thanks.
Yeah, and again, like I said earlier, Angela will put the tomorrow, once I get in and get the recording posted to YouTube, I'll send her a link and she'll get that and this PowerPoint uploaded to your Canvas shell as well. So you, at any point, you can go back and reference this. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. I don't think I'm sharing the right one. You guys aren't seeing, are you seeing it? Yes. Okay. Okay, good.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Perfect. Okay, so let's get to that. It's just my puppies. I like showing my puppies off. So anyway, that's Corporal and Gracie. Corporal is a 125-pound Rottweiler who thinks he's 5 pounds, and he'll be 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he'll be 5 in April, and then Gracie is about 50 pounds, golden retriever, and she will be 3 on Valentine's Day. But the funny thing is that she rules the roost. Like, she makes him mine. So I kind of love that.
I like that too. The little dog rules the roost.
Yeah. All right. So, starting off, just some, acronyms and just things to get used to. And you guys will learn that education is just full of acronyms, and you're just constantly like, what is this? Like, I remember Angela, when she started working as the placement coordinator, like after she was just, she was a CE for a while, she'd just be like, Brandy, what? Stop. What you're using these, like, yeah. She's like, what does it mean? So if I do that to you guys tonight and it's not broken down, stop us and ask us, because there does seem to be a lot of those. So if we reference CT, that's cooperating teacher. And for those of you guys that are traditional MAT candidates that actually receive a placement, that will be the district teacher whose classroom you're placed in. Those of you guys that are option 6, because you guys actually are the teacher of record for your classroom, you all, as you know, gave us your district mentor. So we sometimes just use DM for that. And that is the person within your school that is going to do your observations that a cooperating teacher typically would have done. Then we have the clinical educator, CE, as we will usually say, or university mentor. And that is your university assigned person. You've met a couple of them tonight, Ms. Marshall, Ms. Blankenship, Ms. Mills. And those are the EKU folks that will come out, observe you, and support you during your clinicals. So again, they're your first line person that you work with in each of your clinicals. Something that I try to do with you guys as well, just because I think it's important, where this is an online program and you're not here on campus, like our traditional programs, is that when I assign you a clinical educator this first semester, I try to keep you with that clinical educator the entirety of your program, just because I think that's nice to build that relationship and have that continuity with that person. So, and so unless, something will come up and, they retire, or, maybe, there have been instances of people just, not jiving, and that's okay. And we have to make a change, but normally, I'll keep you with them, and that way it's nice to build that relationship and have that person that, you can contact and have that support at Eastern. And then lastly, if we say TC or teacher candidate, that's you guys. So this is just a nice little overview of what your clinicals are going to look like and what they entail. So you guys are in 810. And this is, some of you guys, I will say, are technically enrolled in the Term B 810, which won't start until, the midway point. I will say, however, that if you all want to go ahead and start your clinicals, by all means do so. I allow that. Like our office allows that. So once we have your placement, you don't have to wait until term B technically starts. If you want to go ahead and start doing it, feel free. I think that's easier because you have the duration of the semester to work on getting your 60 hours. But I will leave that up to you and what works for you in terms of your schedule. So 810 is, like I said, is 60 hours. Your first 20, we want that to be, those of you guys that are on the traditional path, we want that to be observation, just to get a lay of the land for that classroom, get to know those students and how that teacher operates. And then your last 40 hours will be where we would want you to do those 3 lessons and have those 3 observations completed. 2 of those lessons will be observed and scored by your EKU assigned clinical educator, and the last one, the one will be done by your cooperating teacher or district mentor. You can use, if any of you guys currently work in a school and you work in the same school, in the same certification area that you are going after, we would allow you to use that school. But again, it has to be in the same certification area. So, if you're getting, if you work in a high school and you're getting elementary, we just can't do that. The clinical hours have to come from your content area. We also require during 810 for those of you that are traditional to observe those 2 school board meetings, site-based meeting and a school board meeting. Those can be online. You just need to watch those, and when you log your hours, and we'll talk about that later, just you'll notate for those hours that that's what you were doing. I'm not going to go through all of the other clinicals because we're going to have meetings every clinical, but that's going to give you a breakdown of how all the clinicals go. 830, that it's the same amount of hours, same amount. I mean, it's basically the exact same thing as 810 in terms of the requirements. 840, that one's a little different. If you're elementary, you will actually take it twice for half credit, simply because there are just some, because of the amount of content courses that need to be hubbed with a clinical, because you'll do things in your clinicals for your content classes. So you do take it twice. But if you are in a middle grades, a secondary, or a P12 program, you'll just take it one time for 1 hour of credit. And you would do 80 hours versus the elementary people would do 40 hours each time. Still the same amount of observations as the other clinicals. And then the last one is 897, which is your student teaching semester. It doesn't matter if you're option 6 or if you're traditional, you have this, it's the same requirements, and you'll learn about those when the time comes. It's just more lessons. You'll do a unit plan template. There's just some extra things that you would do because you're there every day, day in, day out, following that district calendar. But again, you'll learn more about that when the time comes. Something that we do allow that we started a few semesters ago is that during any of your clinicals, you can use up to 5 of your hours, can be outside of your actual placement. And it can be, things like if you're subbing for a district, or, you're volunteering, for some kind of after school event, after school tutoring, car pickup, drop off, any of those kinds of things that, all those things that teachers are responsible for that you don't think about before you get hired, that things that are outside the classroom that you're required to do. We like you guys to get those experiences. So we allow for 5 of your hours to come from those if you would like. It's not required. It's just that, if you do those things, that can be in lieu of 5 of your hours in your placement. And just notate when you log your hours what you were doing. I'm not going to go through this because it's not going to make sense until you do it. But on your Canvas shell, there are written directions as well as a video on how to log your hours. You're going to log your hours in 2 different places. You're going to log them in KEX, which is actually through your EPSB account. If you don't have an EPSB account, you need to go make one. Because that is where you will go in and you will log every semester your clinical hours. Also, SLL, that's our new program of the last semester that we use for our for all of your assignments and assessments. And also you log your hours in there as well. And you should have received a code when you got your books from Booksmart, from the EKU bookstore for that, to be able to log in for the first time. There are also instructions in your Canvas shell for that as well. But in this PowerPoint, if you have technical issues, we have included who you would contact. It's Kathleen Johnson, but there's a slide for that and an email if you ever do have technical issues with that program. And basically at the end, I have who to contact within our office if you have issues with, depending on what the items are. So I'm just going to skip through these for now, but a lot of these slides are just good troubleshooting slides. If, if we come back and say, oh, our hours aren't jiving, it's probably because you picked, it's human error. You picked the wrong semester, you picked the wrong clinical on the drop down. And so you just need to go back in and fix that. And these slides are helpful on helping you troubleshoot that. So I'm just going to, you can read use these as you need them. So the next item is all of our clinicals use, and if you've looked at the syllabus already, all of our clinicals do what's called contract grading. And basically, we're just saying that you're going to start with an A, and it's left up to you on whether or not you keep that A. You will keep that A if you demonstrate, and the biggest one that causes you to lose that A is dispositional issues. And honestly, the biggest with that is communication. Not being responsive to us here in the PES office, or Dr. Blakely, or your clinical educator, or your cooperating teacher. If we have sent you emails requesting things and we're not hearing from, obviously we don't have the expectation that you're going to respond back, immediately. But if if it's been like a weeks and we're not hearing from you, that's a problem. If you are late for clinicals on a continuing basis, that's a problem. If you're not turning in your assignments when they're due, that's a problem. So it's all of those things. And there's a disposition policy, there's a disposition rubric that gets completed on you, and that encompasses part of your grade and whether or not you can move on to your next clinical and ultimately graduate. So just make sure, take a look at that. The policy and the rubric are in your Canvas shell. So again, like Ms. Baker said, I would just advise you to take the time this weekend to just go through the Canvas shell and read all those documents. All of your templates that you'll use for your assignments are in there. The lesson plan template, your post-observation reflection, just anything that you need is in that Canvas shell. So go ahead and go through it and look at everything. And then if you have questions, then you can reach out to your clinical educator with those questions. Also making sure that you're, again, submitting those hours as you complete them. We like for you guys to enter those weekly as you're doing your clinicals. Again, this is only applicable to traditional students that are given a placement. Those of you guys that are option 6 don't log hours. So, if that's you, ignore that portion. Everybody submitting lesson plans to your clinical educator or your cooperating teacher on time. And for us, that's 2 business days before you're going to teach that lesson. And the reason why we do business days is if you had a lesson on a Monday, we don't want you guys to, send that to one of them on a Saturday or Sunday. That's the weekend. That's their time off. That's their time with their family. And we want to respect that. So that's the reason why we ask for 2 business days. And that gives them time to really, truly take a look at that lesson and give you real feedback that you can then go back and make those changes before you actually go in and teach that lesson. Completing your post-observation reflection on time, and we ask that you turn that into your clinical educator or cooperating teacher within 3 days of the lesson. You must earn a holistic score of 2 on your final evaluation, and that your final evaluation encompasses the entirety of your semester and how you did. It's a 2 out of 4. So, so we're starting low. We don't expect you guys to be rock stars out of the gate. And something I want to tell you guys from the get-go, because our undergrad students are the worst about this. Don't have the expectation that if you don't get a 4 or ever, or a 4 in any area or anything at any point, that you're a bad teacher or a bad student. That's like top tier, like teachers that are out there that have been doing it for 5 years. If we went and observed them, probably wouldn't get a 4 necessarily. It's just, there's just not ways always to even, everything that's on the rubric, you can't always even do or show to be able to even get that score. So just focus on getting that solid 2 this semester, and the clinical educator is going to get you there. Listen to them, take that feedback, and you will get there. And that's all that's what we want. We want that solid 2 from you this semester, and we'll grow from there. Again, observing those meetings, and then again, like I said, it's completing those 3 lessons and the accompanying documents with them. Now, however, if you don't do those things, then that's going to, drop your grade. And depending upon what you did or did not do will determine if that's, maybe a B, or if you don't actually complete the requirements at all, then, you would be failing the course and have to retake. So in order to pass the class, the clinical for us, you have to get a B or higher. So if you get a C or lower, you would have to retake the course. And that's particularly important to to make sure that you're getting, you're not failing or getting even a C because you're all, for those of you guys that are option 6 or want to become option 6, you have to maintain your GPA. I think I'm always blanking on this. I think it's a 2.75 that you have to maintain to be able to keep that option 6 status. So you really have to be cognizant of how you're doing in your classes so that you don't lose that status if you are option 6, because you definitely don't want to leave your position at your school. So just make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's on everything.
Let me just say that if your GPA falls below a 3.0, the EKU Graduate School will put you on academic probation. You have 1 semester of academic probation to correct any GPA deficits. That's hard to do in a graduate program because some courses are offered only once per year. So we sometimes have to ask for extensions of academic probation. But anybody on academic probation is no longer eligible for option 6. So your GPA is really important.
Yeah, quite frankly, your guys, it's something you have to pay more attention to than our undergrad students do, just because of the requirements of our grad program.
It's actually why some of you may be surprised that you're only enrolled in 7 hours this semester, as opposed to your undergraduate program where you were doing 15, 18, some of you in honors programs, even 21 hours in a semester. Grad school is very different. The courses are much more time intensive, rigorous, taking 1 course at a time, the way we do it with a clinical spread across the entire 16 weeks serves you well for maintaining that GPA. Not everybody could handle more than that.
And then obviously, like I said, I already kind of said that, if you don't do those items that are required, then you would fail the course. And again, that can lend itself to potentially being on academic probation or losing your option 6 status, and then obviously having to repeat. So it's honestly, guys, it's really, the requirements are laid out very simply. As long as you don't get behind and you honestly just do your clinicals over the course of the term, and not wait, then you're going to not have a problem. That's who we see the problems. Somebody that waits and they don't do anything, and then they try to, and then they're like, they reach out to they've ghosted their clinical educator all semester, and they reach out with like 2 or 3 weeks, left in the semester, and like, oh my God, like, I need to get this all done. And it's kind of impossible at that point to get it all done. So start now. Get as soon as you get that email from your clinical educator, let's with your placement, let's get going. If you're option 6 and you're already out there, when you get your email from the clinical educator introducing themselves, let's go ahead and start talking about like planning that first observation and when that's going to be. Let's not wait, and so that again, if there are issues and you're struggling, you have time to make those changes, and you might have to teach another lesson. That happens sometimes, to be able to get you to that holistic 2, or later on in a different clinical of 3. And that's okay. But that's why we want you to start early, so that we have time to get you there if you are struggling. So for those of you that are traditional, that hope to eventually become option 6 and obtain a job and go on a temporary provisional, you must have, which you guys should at this point, have clear admission to the program and be enrolled in courses. If you are offered a position by the district, then you need to notify us ASAP, because we have got to complete some different paperwork with you guys on getting a mentor agreement done and getting that temporary provisional certification completed in EPSB. And this is something that you actually have to renew yearly. So if you do transition to that, you need to work with Deshana Rowlett in my office, and her contact information will be at the end. And just make sure that you're timely with that, because that can be an issue as well in allowing you to go ahead and start as option 6. We need you to be responsive with that paperwork. And if at any point you are option 6 and you change positions, or the person that you have decided that's going to be your district mentor leaves, goes elsewhere, and that you need a new one, you got to let us know, because we've got to do a new mentor agreement. If your clinical educator that we assigned to you retires, or whatever, then we have to do a new mentor agreement. So we got to assign you a new one. So that's just, some of the things of always be paying attention to your emails and being responsive, because there are always things coming from our office and Dr. Blakely as well that you need to respond to, in addition to your professors for your courses. Emergency certification is not option 6. That is for subbing. So if you have an emergency cert and you're subbing, you're not option 6. You still have a traditional placement and still are required to complete your assessments and assignments for this course in your traditional placement. So you guys noticed that I sent you guys surveys to about where you wanted to be placed at, and just getting some information from you if you were already teaching and those kinds of things. I'm going to send that survey to you guys every semester before your clinical, to determine, are we sticking with the same district? Are you still option 6? Are you going to go option 6? That kind of thing, so that we can prepare and determine where your placement needs to be each semester. So again, another reason why you got to check those emails all the time. If I'm sending you an email, it's for a good reason. And also, this comes up a lot, your hours always have to be in your certification area. We can't place you where, if you're, an elementary, and you cannot, your elementary P through 5, you cannot be in 7th grade science class doing clinicals. Like all of your hours have to be in your content area. These next couple slides I think are really nice, because they show a breakdown of what applies to who, if you're a traditional student, an option 6 student, or if it applies to both of you. So I think this is these slides are really nice to reference. As you can see, logging hours, that's traditional only. But if you are option 6, you have a mentor log that you turn in each semester that, because part of our statute and requirement with the state is, as an option 6 student, your university mentor and your district mentor must each do 5 mentorship hours with you during the semester. And those hours do come from them coming and doing those observations and having conferences with you, and that's part of those 5 hours, but we do log those on a form, and those are signed by you guys and turned into Miss Rowlett in my office. So, and that log, I think the template for that is also on your Canvas shell. Both of you guys, no matter what your path is, you guys do the observations, 3 for this for 810, 2 observed by us at EKU and 1 by your district person. You both will have a disposition completed on you by your EKU educator and a final evaluation. Only those in the traditional program pathway right now will apply when it comes time for student teaching to actually student teach. And the reason why is there is several items that have to be done in advance of student teaching. So that the application process is the semester prior to your student teaching. And we have to determine, first where you want to be, but also then we have to get background checks done, practice exams. Like there's a list of about 9 or 10 things. And so, but again, you'll learn about that stuff when the time comes. I have meetings with those and I go through all of those documents, and you have plenty of time to get those accomplished during that semester prior to student teaching. If you're a traditional student, during the student teaching semester, we have 3 different seminar days that you will come to campus. And that is, again, for our traditional students. The first seminar day is actually before student teaching starts. And that one is more of the just the required things that the schools want before you can enter their building: school safety, confidentiality, ethics. Actually, Dr. Blankenship or Ms. Blankenship does a session on communication and having those like hard conversations. I'm trying to think of what else we have. We do resume writing with our Office of Academic and Career Services and interviewing skills. Yeah, so that's kind of it's a long day, but it's a good day of, items that are needed prior to starting the student teaching. Your midway point of the semester, you come back and we do mock interviewing. And we actually have representatives from the districts come in, superintendents, HR directors, principals, just all kinds of folks that come in and do mock interviews with you guys to get you ready for the real thing. Our students have loved it. We started this, gosh, I don't remember, Angela, we started about semesters ago now.
About 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, so they love it because, students, are able to, they feel confident going into the real thing. And quite honestly, we had a lot of people go ahead and actually be offered jobs like from the mock interviews. So it's kind of exciting that, and all of the representatives from the districts, they're constantly telling us, man, it's like, I want EKU people. Like, y'all are like so good. You're so prepared. The students, they see a difference in you guys versus other universities. We also have a career fair that day where I invite all the districts, and whoever wants to attend can come and set up a table. And you can go around and talk to all the districts and see, what they have to offer, especially these days. Because of the teacher shortage, a lot of the districts have different incentives to come to their district and teach. So it's kind of nice just to walk around and, you're kind of the one in charge, because they need you more than you need them now these days with the shortage. So it's kind of nice and just, walk around and talk to everybody, because you never know where you're going to end up. You never know where life's going to take you. So it's kind of nice to go ahead and build those connections. I can say that Miss Marshall that you got introduced to a little while ago, she that's how she ended up becoming a clinical educator, because in her last role with Jefferson County, she was part of the HR team, the recruitment team. And so I got to know her from her coming to the recruitment fair over the last several years. And she told me she was retiring. And I said, well, you got to come be a clinical educator now. So, yeah, so that's kind of, so it's always making contact, as you can see. And then you also have I need to change this, but because we changed it for this semester, but for student teaching, you actually log your time in SLL now instead of submitting a calendar each month. So, but again, don't worry about that stuff. We'll talk about that later when you get closer to time. Again, this just shows the breakdown of that you guys are all going to do the same requirements no matter what path you are. If you're option 6, you have that yearly renewal of your temporary provisional to let you keep teaching, making sure you inform us if there's any changes so we can redo that paperwork. And then lastly, everybody completes a CA1 application when they graduate, and so we can get you licensed. And you guys, which is nice, are going to start off as a rank 2. So, you know, our undergrads start off as a rank 3. So you guys are going to start with a little bit bigger of a pay bump than our undergrads do, which is nice in and of itself. And then you guys can start working on your rank 1, and hopefully you can do that at Eastern. And then we'll get you another pay increase. So again, that's just a really nice couple slides, just to kind of show you the difference between the two paths. During your semester prior to student teaching, which depends on when you start, it could be your 8:30 or 8:40. Gosh, Dr. Blakely, for them, it would be what they start. Theirs would probably be 8:30, wouldn't it? I'm trying to think of that.
Depending on your program, middle and secondary, CED 8:30 is typically the second semester, and CED 8:40 then the following fall. But if you're elementary, it can be a little bit more widespread because the program is a little bit longer, and that applies to IECE as well.
But again, you're gonna have a meeting with Dr. Blakely, or for those of you guys that are special ed, with Dr. Creel, you know, every semester to go over, you know, to make sure that you're following your planner in DegreeWorks. That's, you know, that's always where you can go to see where you're on, you know, how you're tracking to make sure that you're completing your program, you know, on time and following the plan that your coordinator and your advisor have laid out for you.
Yeah, and your planners are already set up in your degree audit. Dr. Macy and I have worked very hard this month to make sure everybody has an accurate, up-to-date planner for the entire length of your program. So every course is listed in there. The only outliers to that is if you are middle or secondary, you require 6 content electives. I don't know what electives you're going to pick. If you're a history major, you might want a geography class, you might want a history class, you might want a class in economics. So you've got some choice there with those electives depending on your program. So we can't plug those into the degree audit right now. So that's the only outlier on your planner. If for some reason we've skipped over somebody and you don't have a planner, send me an email tomorrow and we'll get your planner set up. I do go in and audit everybody's degree audit and planner myself. The advisors that you'll be working with for your concentration do the same. But sometimes, you know, I've got 160 some MAT students right now. So sometimes we overlook something or it gets skipped, or if you were admitted and we went on winter recess the next day, everybody was off work for 3 weeks, and it just might not have risen to the surface of emails when we got back in January. But we'll take care of it very quickly for you.
But again, please just make sure that you're following the plan that's laid out for you. You know, in the past, that, you know, that's where we've had students run into issues that have strayed from that plan. And just, you know, I don't know why, but they just went, you know, they just went off on their own, and that will cause you to not finish in time, you know? So it's very important that you stay on.
I I joke with Dr. Macy. I call it going rogue. Oh
Yeah,
no,
going
there's
rogue.
another one. They've gone rogue and added a course simply because it's listed on the schedule and they want to take extra stuff thinking it'll help them graduate sooner. It won't help you graduate sooner. Our MAT degree is set up with so many courses that are offered only once annually. CED 840 has to be taken in fall. Your methods courses have to be taken in fall. In the elementary program, there are courses that are just once a year. Taking them too soon or out of sequence actually can harm you if you're receiving graduate student loans because you might be able to fit that extra course in, but all it's going to do later is in the semester you were supposed to take that course, you'll be shortchanged in the 4.5 hours you need to receive graduate student loans. So it can actually harm you. And you can't just pick up electives to make yourself financially aid eligible. They monitor that in Big E Central and it doesn't work that way. So you could be harming yourself. I also will say we build in summer. So if you're planning summer vacations, know that you will typically have a course in each of the 6-week mini terms. Are they 7 or 6 now, Brandy? 6 weeks?
Yeah, the minis are sick.
6 weeks in summer. You'll have a course in term A and term B in summer, for the most part. And if you skip summer, that could also delay your graduation as we wait for the next summer to roll around again for you to take those courses. So again, as Brandy said, everything is in your planner, in your degree audit. Um, if you need to deviate from that planner, contact your academic advisor to discuss that. They will then update your planner with what you and they agree would be the plan moving forward. Okay. Need to take a semester off? That's okay. We understand that things come off. We'll rework the planner and get you back on track when you're ready to return to classes. So we can usually accommodate most things.
Thank you. So for you guys that stay traditional and haven't don't transition at some point to option 6, that semester prior to 897 that's listed in your planner, that is when you will apply for student teaching. We have an application in a system called Slate. That's actually for the first time this semester where our student teaching application is moved to Slate, and you will receive a link for that. It's actually really nice because now it's actually it has a portal and you're actually able to follow along and see everything getting checked off and where you're at in the process. Whereas before it was just you waiting on emails from me or someone else in my office. So I'm kind of excited to see how it works this semester for the yeah, it'll be all ready to roll for you guys. It'll be great by the time it gets to you. But the ones this semester are going to be my guinea pigs. So we'll see.
As a reminder, Slate is the application at EKU that you used for your admission materials. So I know that you're already used to working in Slate.
Again, like Dr. Blakely said, in terms of some of your courses being in the summer, and you need to be cognizant of that for scheduling vacations. The same goes for during your student teaching. You're following the district calendar. You're not following the EKU's calendar. So if you're student teaching in the spring, it's their spring break and not ours, or the fall, it's their fall break and not ours. So you've got to pay attention to those. The meetings that we have, those seminars, those are required. And so, and you get the dates for those well in advance. So go ahead and, and I send calendar invites for those, well in advance. So, please make sure that when you're getting ready to go into that semester, that you're looking and checking your email and everything for all those dates and getting those plugged in so that you don't schedule something that conflicts, because you've got to follow you've got to attend those meetings and you've got to follow that calendar for your district.
And I'm just going to warn you now, in summer, don't email your professor, one of whom will be me in summer term B, one of your semesters, and say, well, Dr. Blakely, I'm going to Europe for 2 weeks and won't have access to my email. What do I do about this class that I'm enrolled in? My answer is going to be drop it. Because if you're going to be absent and missing for 2 weeks, you're not going to keep up in a 6 week summer term. So be careful about those vacations that you plan. I know you want to take vacations, and it's fine. I do too. I travel all the time in the summer, but my laptop goes with me, my iPad goes with me, and I'm checking email every day and working just a little bit each day to keep current, even during the summer breaks. Getting married, you may need to think about that and when you can take that class or not. If you need to skip one of the 6 week mini terms in summer, we get it. We'll work it back out for you another semester, or we'll figure out a workaround. Just let us know for far enough in advance so that we can have that conversation with you. Don't be that person who emails the professor 2 weeks after the class or the week after you get back from the vacation that you never warned him about.
Again, the clinicals that you have prior to student teaching, they encompass a total of 200 clinical hours. That is a statutory regulation to go to student teaching. That is not an EKU. That's not something that EKU decided upon. That's the state. So something that we audit during your semester prior to student teaching is us making sure that you're going to hit that 200 hours, because we can't move you forward without it, because we wouldn't be able to sign off on your licensure. Again, also, getting all of those, but we'll talk more in depth when it's closer to time with the documents that are needed. And part of those documents, and I want to go ahead and just get this in your head now, you will take, those of you that are traditional right now, you will take your praxis content exam and the PLT that semester prior to student teaching. That is part of the requirement. Those of you that are option 6, that are in middle grade or secondary, you guys have already, in order to be option 6, you guys have already taken or should be taking your content praxis exam. But at the end of your program, that last semester before you graduate, you guys need to be scheduling and taking your PLT. I don't know how many people of our students, unfortunately, forget that, and they get to option 6, folks, and they get to that last semester, and they get really shocked when they reach out to us and they're like, "Hey, you haven't signed off on our license. We've graduated." And I'm like, you haven't taken the PLT. Like, we can't. And they're like, well, I don't know what a PLT. And I'm like, well, it's like, we talk about this like from the jump. So make sure that you have those exams scheduled when you're supposed to and taking those when you're supposed to, because again, we can't, it doesn't matter that you graduated and passed the classes. If you haven't taken those and passed those, we can't sign off on your application for licensure. And again, this is just another slide that reiterates that. If you notice at the bottom, the one that's the asterisk, if you're one of those content areas, you do not have to take your content exam prior to becoming option 6. It is only those in middle grades, secondary, and P12. Exclusion is outside of the ones at the bottom.
And we need to add library sciences.
Oh, we do. I forgot about, because we've added that in. Yeah, I'll change. I'll get Angela, will you make a note for me to update that on the slide? Thank you. Yeah, so just make sure, guys, that you are adhering to that for your praxis exams. Canvas, you guys probably, I'm sure you've already been in it and are slowly working your way around it, but that's our learning management system. We transitioned to it last semester from Blackboard. It's I think it's a lot more user-friendly. It's a lot more intuitive and works with a lot more of our programs than Blackboard did. It works really well with SLL, and all of the links for your assignments and assessments that are required for clinical. You literally will just click on that link in Canvas and it will take you to that spot that that's needed for in SLL. So always go through Canvas to get to SLL. That way you know that you never go to the wrong place. That's always what I suggest. But all the good stuff's in there: your syllabus, your student handbook, all the templates for your course materials, the login, and we have so many videos and tutorials for anything that you're confused on. Use all of that stuff first and look through all of that first before reaching out and asking, because like Ms. Baker said earlier, I think we kind of have it all covered if you will look and read and watch. You may not understand it and need to ask clarification, but it's in there. So start with, you doing the work and reading and watching first before you, because it very well will probably answer 99.9% of your questions.
Financial resources is another good reason to look at it.
And there's praxis prep in there. That's great, a great resource. Yeah, I mean, we have, and something that you guys, if you need assistance with, I know you're not here on campus, but you're welcome to come to campus to utilize. We started Clinical Closet. It's been last January, last January, not this time, but January before last, that we now have across the hallway from Professional Education Services. We have an entire room of women's professional clothing, an entire room of men's professional clothing, and then we actually have a whole room of surplus to add into it. So if you guys need help and assistance with clothing for your clinicals, or if you are the teacher of record, you are more than welcome to come to campus and shop, and it's free for you guys. It's something that one of our pet projects that Abby in the office, it actually was her brainchild, and I loved it and said, yes, and we ran with it, and we've had huge support from people donating, and we got a grant to supplement and buy things. And so it's just, we try to come up with ways to help, remove some financial barriers for you guys when we can. So if you need that, it's there for you. Just, you can just come in. We're here Monday through Friday, it's 4:30. So we'll take you over there and let you shop. Here's your link to get to CATS. If you do need to set up an account, go in there and set up your account so that you can start logging your hours. Again, the tutorials are in Canvas as well for you on how to do that. This is just more of the information on student learning and licensure. Again, like I said, you should have received a code from the bookstore for your initial getting into SLL. Once you're in, you will have an account for 7 years. That's the way it works now. So it's kind of nice because, even after you graduate, if you need to access some things, you'll have access to it for 7 years. So that's kind of nice. So I always recommend everybody now, to go in and save things that you would want to keep, for yourself, before you graduate. And then if you have technical issues, Kathleen Johnson, she's not part of our office, but I claim her because she's physically located within my office. She's actually our data manager for the college, and she's fabulous. And she actually was a math teacher before doing this position. But if anything on the technical side with SLL, she is your go-to, and that is her email. Again, I just want to keep reiterating these professional dispositions. They really can hang you up. So make sure timeliness, communication, just all of those things that you are doing appropriately, because you're going to get evaluated in each clinical course. If you get 2 different dispositions with a 1 or a 2, that will trigger you having to come to what's called PEAP. It is our Professional Education Advisory Committee. And that committee is comprised of faculty members, some of our outside partners, some principals. We actually have an undergrad and grad representative, our B12 faculty in other parts of the college. And they will actually determine, based on those reports, what's going to happen to you going forward. Whether that means you might have to repeat something, you might have to go on a professional improvement plan. You might be kicked out of the program if it's serious enough. So, just make sure that you're, my biggest advice is just, take a look at the policy and the rubric and just make sure that, you understand the expectations, that we have for you guys. This is just another, again, it won't be until you'll forget this, but I just want to put it in here just because I like you guys to know kind of what everything looks like for the future. But you'll apply the semester for graduation, the semester prior to graduation. There's the link that's used for that. And then you'll start getting all kinds of emails about, you're ordering your regalia and grad fest and commencement information. So always, make sure that you're checking your EKU email on a consistent basis, not only for your courses and clinicals, but also for these types of things that come from the university itself. During your student teaching semester, Roswell Manning in my office is the one that oversees certification, and he will send out instructions on how to apply. I will tell you guys that until final grades are in and the registrar's office confers the degree, which is typically, I think that's usually a week after final grades are due, that we can't do anything. It has to, that conferral has to be noted on your transcript. And then that transcript must be requested by you guys and sent to EPSB before we can actually sign off on your licensure. So there is a little bit of a time lag between graduation and actually getting the application turned in. And then it goes to, I think there's only about 3 or 4 of them at the state that process every certification for every district and every university in the state. So depending on the time of year, as I would say, especially if you guys graduate in the spring, that's when everybody's getting their renewals, the 5-year teacher renewals. So they get inundated in the spring, and they're working mandatory overtime. I hear horror stories from them about how crazy it gets. So it can get backed up like 8 to 10 weeks sometimes for them to get to the applications. So just keep in mind, don't freak out. The districts are used to that. This happens every year. They know that it can take a little while for you to get that official license. Even though you guys aren't here physically on campus, all of the resources on campus are still available to you guys. So I wanted to put those on here if you want to utilize them. Noel Studio is fabulous for if you need help with, if you're writing a paper, have a presentation, and you need to get some help with that. You can set up a meeting with people over there. The library, our librarians are fabulous on helping you with research if you need to. The website itself has awesome resources. They actually have free praxis prep through the library as well. We have a student success center that has tutoring if needed. Office of Academic and Career Services is awesome. They can help you with resumes, cover letters. They can do mock interviewing with you. They have a professional dress for success closet that has more like suits and like really nice like interview attire. So if you need that, you can schedule a time to go over there and get something for that. That service is always available to you, even once you graduate and as an alum. If you are going to pivot and have a change in career or just need to have a refresh on your resume, you could always reach out to them and set up a virtual or in-person meeting for that. And then Colonel's Covered is a great resource for for food insecurity, clothing insecurity. Like they have, you can just go in and shop as needed. You just take what you need. It's anonymous. If you need anything, there's toiletry items, all the things. for our students. So if that's something that you need, please feel free to take advantage of that. One of the other biggies, always use your EKU email when talking with us. We are not supposed to respond to you from personal emails. It has to be your EKU email. So if you send me something from your personal email, I'm either not going to respond, or I'm going to respond back and say, I need you to send me an email from your EKU email. Because we keep track of that way, and we can actually pull up that we've had conversations with you in Slate, because it all goes through that as well. Once you guys do get your placements, those of you that are traditional, like I said, go ahead and email if you're your cooperating teacher that you're placed with, and introduce yourself and see, what they want to do in terms of, do they want you to come, in advance of an actual day of clinicals, and just, maybe introduce yourself to the kids and just kind of get a lay of the land beforehand. Just see how they want to do it. Everybody, all the teachers that we work with are different, and the clinical educators are too. The clinical educator that you're assigned to might want to have a meeting with you in addition to this one. It's kind of just how they do it, and just wait for that communication from them. And you're going to work with them on scheduling these observations. We have that. We don't dictate within our office when you do them. That is between you and your assigned educator and cooperating teacher on working that out. Here's the link to the financial resources PowerPoint that we've referenced. So you can go in and look at that and see if there's anything that applicable that you would like to utilize in there. It's also on the Canvas shell. And then this last slide is just our contact information. Myself, Angela Baker, she's going to be outside of your clinical educator and Miss Blankenship as the lead. She's the next point of contact for you guys. Roswell Manning, if you have any issues with your CAEX, loading your hours. Deshana Rowlett, if you are option 6 and anything referencing your option 6 paperwork, or if you guys are going to transition to option 6, she's your point of contact. And then lastly, Dr. Blakely as MAT coordinator. If you need any of us, that's our contact information. So I think what we'll do is, before we open it up for questions, Dr. Blakely, do you want to go through your slides first?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if you.
Okay, and I made you a co-host. So
okay.
If you want to go ahead and share, I'm going to stop sharing and let you share.
Let's see if I can get it to pull up. There we go. Hold on just a second. Let me increase my screen. Put it on presentation. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
So I just wanted to review, because some of you have not really talked with your advisor, your faculty advisor yet, because Dr. Macy and I have worked with you to get you started. So I just wanted to go through the roles, because it can be confusing about who to contact for what. So I know that you've met Dr. Macy, who set up your planners, and then I went in and proofed it. She's your professional academic advisor. She's staff full-time, working to assist you. And predominantly, she handles scheduling and registration questions, and she's good at forwarding your question to the right person if you've sent an email to her inadvertently. What I would recommend is you always include Dr. Macy on the emails you send to your faculty advisor. If both of those people are in the conversation, then there's not a duplication of services, and we make sure that you don't get overlooked for some reason. Okay. I in the MAT program coordinator, so I handle larger issues within the MAT degree, admission, pre-admission, admission advising, things like that. But I also am the faculty advisor for elementary, middle, secondary, P12 and 512 concentrations for the most part. And so, again, that's why I say email me and Dr. Macy if it's about scheduling for one of those programs, or about registration, things like that. Dr. Creel is IECE. Dr. Holstein is DHH. Dr. Smithers is LBD and MSD. Dr. Turner is Library Sciences. And then I also added down here Brandy's email address, Miss Baker's email for clinical placements, and Dr. And Mrs. Rowlett DeShana. Because if you have option 6 questions, you're probably then going to want to use the alt cert email to talk with Miss Rowlett, and you may want to include me as the MAT program coordinator, so or your advisor in that. So you're going to have to pick and choose just a little bit about who you contact for what purpose.
Just to jump in here just for a second, because I've been letting everybody know at each of the clinical meetings. But if you've received email from me in the last like week or so, in the signature, you may have noticed it says Brandy Rose. But my email is still Brandy Blackburn. I'm transitioning back to my maiden name. I just recently got divorced, so I just want you to be aware that if you start seeing eventually Brandy Rose, it's me. So just want to make sure that you still recognize that, and just think, oh, this is spam from somebody I don't know. Yeah. So just want to make you aware of that.
And then I'm also going to ask that when you email anyone at EKU, in your signature, you include your EKU ID number, your 901 number, please. And if you just set up an automatic signature within your EKU email through your IT services account, then that is always included in there. It's not your social security number, so it's not a private number. No one who isn't in a professional position at EKU could look you up by that number, and no one outside of EKU would have access to your information. So sharing that in your signature is still protected with FERPA. It's not a problem. But what it does is it speeds up our answer, because almost 100% of the time, before I can answer the question, I need to pull up your degree audit to confirm some information about you so that I answer the question correctly. And all staff and faculty do the same thing. And if we don't have to search for you before we can quickly just pull you up on a screen, you've probably saved us 5 minutes. And when you're talking about advising 200 or 1,000 students within a semester, that 5 minutes is critical to us in that process.
Honestly, something else I would add, that also benefits our office within that signature, in addition to that 900 number, if you will go ahead and tell us like that you're, MAT elementary education in that, or, option 6 English, secondary English or whatever, that sometimes is all I need to answer a question. So if you would add that to your email signature as well, that can be a time saver for my office as well.
Yeah, that's so helpful, because the answer for an MAT elementary student is quite different than the answer for an MAT secondary student, even when you both ask the same question. So it's pretty critical there. And I'll forward these slides to Mrs. Baker too to send to you. Let me see if I can get my slides to advance. Hold on. Oh, there we go. And I just wanted to remind you, I hope you all have this worked out in your heads, but I just wanted to throw up a visual of this for you. The semester plan is divided into full semester courses, term A courses and term B courses. And this applies to fall, spring, and summer. So full semester is always going to be your CEDs for the most part, while some of them can be completed in shorter than 15 weeks, that we still think of them as semester courses. And then a few of your later courses, like your methods, your student teaching or practicum semester, and then your research courses, your action research, which is a series of 2 courses in your last 2 semesters, are full semester courses. Everything else will occur in term A or term B. And typically, you're going to take 1 course in A and 1 course in B. And just to get you started, I've shown you what you should be enrolled in this semester. So you have CED 810, then right now you're in EGC 820, and after spring break in mid-March, you'll switch out of 820 and into EGC 830. Okay? So it's pretty straightforward there. Then I've just got to go over a few things with you because I know you're not going to fall into this situation, but I want to be very clear about disclosing some information to you to help protect you in our program. And I don't know if you heard about the teacher, I've seen it in social media, that was student teaching recently, and the police came to arrest her because she made a Snapchat post during the middle of the school day where she was quite condescending about one of her students. And it was tracked through the school's IT services, and the police were there to arrest her within 1 hour. Um, you know, dispositionally, that would be a problem. If that was an EKU student, you would be appearing before a dispositions committee for that. But in a more serious zone, that district felt that it was an arrestable offense, and the police did come and arrest her. So I just want to make sure that you're always thinking before you act, and especially as you're planning your curriculum and you're writing your lesson plans. So you're responsible for ensuring that your teaching practices, your classroom interactions, and professional conduct remain fully compliant with all Kentucky laws, district policies, and school guidelines. And your EKU handbook is a good thing to review here because it really talks about the basics here. This includes an understanding and following policies related to curriculum content, parental rights, non-discrimination, and your professional ethics. Okay. Um, it's also your responsibility to avoid classroom practices that violate state restrictions related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We shortchange that and we call it DEI. Kentucky law outlines specific limitations on instruction and training that compels P12 students to adopt particular political, ideological, and social viewpoints. As a teacher candidate, you have to be cautious about this. We're living in a very politically charged time in American history, and we want to be very careful about that. And it could be very easy for you to stray into questionable content in lesson planning. So that's another reason why always submitting your lesson plans 2 business days in advance gives all of those mentors, clinical educators, EKU staff, etc., time to help you talk through something before you go to teach a lesson and wind up having a pitfall that you didn't even really understand was going to be an issue because they just have more experience at this right now than you do. So we want to be careful about these things. I don't want to scare you. I just want you to act with caution. So let's try to do this. Let's avoid requiring or pressuring students to affirm, adopt, or personally agree with any political, social, or ideological belief. Avoid presenting personal ideological views as mandated or as curricular content. I will tell you, I taught for 18 years in public schools, and my students in middle school never knew how I voted in a political election. They could not have told you if I was Republican, Independent, or Democrat. I taught the content, and sometimes that included teaching about political parties, but it did not mean I was asking students to ascribe to a viewpoint or political party, just as an example there. Then ensure that your classroom discussions are cultural, identity, historical, or history or society, and that they remain fact-based, age-appropriate, and within the boundaries of Kentucky academic standards. Kentucky academic standards are published at the state and talked about in your first course at EKU, EGC 820 and EGC 830, and you need to find those and identify them, and it will give you the blueprint for what you should and should not be talking about. And I want you to refrain from implementing instructional activities or trainings that are prohibited by state statute or district policy. Again, you don't have to be the expert at this right now. You just have to use your mentors to your advantage in this. And I think that's it for me. I just wanted to be careful there. I hope that you're not the student that falls into one of these traps. We rarely have this situation emerge, but it just feels lately like it's worth going over. And then I have one more tidbit I just wanted to add. Wanted to remind each of you that the MAT degree at EKU is restricted to Kentucky. Okay? That means you have to complete this degree within Kentucky, be licensed in Kentucky. Then, if you move to another state, you can apply for reciprocity or a transfer of your teaching certificate once issued in Kentucky to that state. And Kentucky has a very good reputation nationally, and it's pretty easy to move out of state and have your license applied in that state. However, if you move before you have finished the MAT degree, you may not be able to complete the MAT degree, okay? Because it's restricted to Kentucky residents, meaning we can fudge it if you live the other side of Louisville or if you're in Cincinnati and living in Ohio, because you can cross over back into Kentucky for your clinical experiences. But if you move to Utah, for example, or Colorado or North Carolina, you're not going to be able to complete your clinical placements to finish the MAT degree, okay? So while your coursework is online, your clinical work is not online. And so that's very important to remember and I like to say that at the start of your degree, because sometimes you have plans in a year or so, and you just want to be cautious about where you're going to land if you're doing all of this course credit and incurring all of this expense for graduate school to later not be able to finish the degree. Okay. And I think that's it for me, Brandy, if we want to open it up for questions.
Yeah, let's open it up for questions, guys. Because that's all that we had to share with you. So what would you like to ask us? Michelle, you're not able to see text assistant part in Canvas. We may have just it may have just been a link that got overlooked. So, Angela, if you don't care to take a look at that tomorrow or when you're back, and we can get that added.
I'm not sure. I didn't even know if they could hear me.
Yes.
So I took a job where I started today as a long-term substitute for 6 weeks, and they are considering it a 6-week working interview for me to move to a full-time English teaching job. However, the long-term job is a substitute for a sixth grade English teaching. And I told them about the MAT program and how I'm 8 through 12. And they said that it would be to consider to hire me full-time for eighth grade later on. How
Well, luckily,
If you're in a
Rebecca, the
sixth grade, if it's
coursework
a sixth
for
grade
both the
classroom, you
middle
can't do
and
that.
the secondary concentrations are the same. So
okay.
if something happened and you got hired, say in middle grades, but you're currently in secondary English, we could switch your concentrations to allow you to take that job as long as you're willing to change your degree concentration to middle grades. We have that happen a lot, and it's usually a very viable solution for a semester or two, um, especially middle to secondary. It gets a little bit harder second semester if you're elementary and need to move to middle or secondary. That's not always possible because middle and secondary require one to have a prior degree in the same content area. Okay. Elementary, anybody can be admitted to elementary. So say you all are middle grades or secondary now, but a job comes up at the elementary school and you want to take it. I'm fine with that, but you're going to have to change your concentration to elementary education. Okay.
Yeah,
Elementary education takes 2 extra semesters to complete because we embed the content that isn't necessary if you have a BS degree in history or mathematics or physics or something like that.
So Rebecca, to piggyback on that, if you're going to, you're kind of going to need to decide kind of quickly, just because too, if you're going to be kind of deemed option 6 because you're going to be the teacher of record because you're going to be long-term subbing, we need to know if you need to change the middle grades if it's for a sixth grade position, and you're also going to need to take that content praxis. Dr. Blakely, am I missing anything else?
Well, she's already taken the secondary English.
So you've already taken secondary English?
No, not yet.
Okay. So yeah, pretty quickly if you haven't taken, because the middle grades English language arts praxis is different than the secondary English praxis. But for others of you, if you happen to have taken a secondary subject matter praxis in math, English, history, or biology, it trumps the middle grade praxis. So we don't make you retake a praxis for middle grades. So Rebecca, you could go ahead and take the secondary English praxis, and we would not make you retake a middle grades English praxis.
Okay.
But if you're wanting to do that sixth grade position for it to hopefully turn into something, we probably do need to transition you to middle grades for your major.
Okay.
At least in the interim.
And I would just hold off on scheduling the praxis for 6 weeks until you know, unless you already have it scheduled.
Okay.
But something that we will need to do, if this is something you're going to be starting, is we need get with me an email on who your mentor would be at the school, on who would be doing your observations on that side, because we're going to need to do paperwork and get with Deshana on that.
I will speak with the principal tomorrow and have them reach out to you.
And just remember, you're not option 6 eligible without pass scores on the content praxis.
Yes.
Okay. And it can take how many weeks, Brandy, to get those back?
A month
Yeah, a
sometimes.
month.
I'm going to answer a question in the chat. Tina, you no, LBD is one of the ones that you don't have to take the content to be option 6. So you can wait until the end of your program to take your LBD content and your PLT. Connor, you have a question?
Yes, sorry. So I am also hoping to transition to option 6. I'm actually currently full-time teaching a junior English course. I am in the mentor mentee program. And I was wondering if there's a way that I could request that like my mentor possibly be my in-school, oh gosh, what was the acronym? My CU, my cooperating teacher.
Yeah, your university, I'm sorry, your district mentor.
Yeah, because she's literally like, I'm on a corner and she's on this corner. So like she's right across the hall from me, would be super easy. I could go over to her for my
A fellow English teacher.
Yeah, she's actually the head of
That's
English
optimal.
department.
That's what we want. That's the optimal person.
And I'm already working with her on like observation hours and stuff for the mentor mentee program. So I feel like it would just overlap really well.
I'm fairly certain, Deshana, I think I had Deshana reach out to you today.
Yes, I just emailed her back like right.
Awesome. Yeah, so get her the
Before this?
information for that person because we'll do a mentor agreement for you.
Right.
And then I think you told us you have the practice scheduled.
I'm
Or
working on
ready
getting it
to?
scheduled. Yes, I'm wanting to get it scheduled for like early February.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and get that done and then we'll get that paperwork completed.
I've been doing my studies. I have flashcards around here somewhere. I've been going over them on my planning periods with our PD teacher upstairs. I was like, if you have a free moment, would you mind coming down and helping me out?
Well, use those links for the prep, the practice
Yes,
prep.
I just discovered those. I'm about to go home, take some practice tests, and
yeah,
I'm scared.
No, don't be.
So you said just email that information to.
Yeah, email it to Deshana.
All right. Would it just be like her name and her school email?
At the end of the slides that I went through, her email's on there. So just.
Oh no, I meant my
yes.
Just her name, her
your
email.
mentor's name, and then her email.
And her email. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Another in the chat. I'm not sure it's who the person is because it says Samsung, but their IECE and would like to make a transition to elementary. Dr. Blakely, do you want to address that one?
And it says maybe next year.
Mm-hmm.
Next year will be too late if you're talking about 2027 because you're going to take different courses beginning in summer term. So if you think you would rather be elementary than IECE, you need to make that change this semester. Otherwise, you're going to waste tuition by taking courses that wind up being free electives and don't count in your degree.
So I have a question to kind of go with that. So I'm currently the elementary ed, but I work for Corbin Schools and I work at the preschool full time. I'm not on a contract this year. But my question with that is if I want to stay elementary ed, can I just add on the IECE and then it not be, or do I have to one or the other?
You choose one concentration. We don't have dual concentrations,
Okay.
IECE elementary. You're one or the other, and your clinicals have to occur in the one that you're admitted to. Okay.
Okay. And the only reason I was asking is because I know like for the preschool, even though the elementary ed is like P through 5 or whatever, there's like with it being funded and stuff, you have to have certain, there's so much background to it.
You know, I'm going to share. IECE public schools, birth to P for IECE, the salaries are not as big typically. They're harder positions to get, unless you just have anyone, not just you, Lauren, anyone has their heart set on working with the preschool population. The safer bet within districts is to go with an elementary teaching position. You can still teach first grade, you know, and we could add on an IECE in an MAED degree for your rank one program later. We just can't do it during the MAT degree, okay?
Okay, and that basically that answered everything I had because I wasn't really 100% sure. So I just wanted to kind of.
Yeah, the job security, the salary, everything is usually just a little bit better in an elementary setting than an IECE setting. And in IECE, then we have to look at accredited preschools and non-accredited preschools.
Yeah, and that's
And
kind of what I was getting at with it being there's so much background to
yes,
that.
and you can't do clinicals for an MAT degree in a non-accredited school site. So a lot of like church preschools and stuff, you won't be able to do clinicals at any of those. It has to be accredited.
More
I have a,
questions?
yeah, I do. It's Amanda. Sorry, I have a
Okay.
cold.
No,
Been
you're
sick.
fine. It's that time of year.
Oh, yeah, I substituted for a couple days last week, and ever since then I've been so sick. But
Get those, I know it's those germs.
I know I've been
Those good
taking
germs.
vitamins. I'm like, I gotta get over this. It's coming my new job. Um, but so this is probably a stupid question, but okay, so we log our hours because right now I'm just traditional. I'm
Mhm.
hoping to get hired, but who knows, if that works out. But for every day that I would work, I can't count substituting, right? Other than those 5 hours.
Correct.
Um, would it be considered like 7 hours, like a whole day, or is it considered 8 hours? Because I know technically when I'm at school, it doesn't start till like 9:40, and I get out around, or it ends around 4:20. So I just want to make sure that when I'm logging hours, I'm logging the correct amount of hours.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
we typically do like on a 7 hour.
So non-instructional time is what you have to consider. So like if you're doing bus duty or things like that, even teachers they call it non-instructional time. So it's part of the instructional day. And so that classroom teacher should be able to tell you, or someone in
Okay.
HR. It's usually 7.25. Most of them it's 7.
Okay. And the first 20 hours is just observations. And then after that, that's when you have someone watch you, right? I'm just
Yeah,
trying to make sure that I'm not missing anything.
yeah, because you guys, this is brand new for you guys. We just think so just to give you a background of why we did it this way. So back in the day, we had actually, this first clinical was actually broken up into two other, like it was two clinicals. So you actually just had, the first clinical was just 20 hours and the second one was just 40 hours. So, and we were like, well, let's just combine it and then just make it this way. But again, it's about you getting, we need you to build some rapport with the students and just how that teacher operates in that room with classroom management, just all the things before we think that it's good for you to start. We just don't think it's not good out of the gate just to jump in immediately and teach. And two, it gives you the opportunity to have had some of your content, and in these content classes, you're going to get things that are, that's going to help you to develop those lesson plans initially. So we would prefer it to be, more of the first part of your semester being observation, and then moving into actually teaching those lessons and getting them during the second half of the semester.
Yeah, as Brandy said, it's very important for you to develop rapport with students. The best way to develop rapport with students is to spend that first day to day 3, even if necessary, making a seating chart and memorizing the students' names in that class or those classrooms and getting to know them personally just a little bit. Your classroom environment, what we used to call classroom management skills, will go a lot more smoothly if you have rapport with your students. And then it also gives you time to observe the teacher in action and learn a little bit about how they like to see things done, the routine of the class, what's going on, where the transition points are during the class. Also gives you time to be there a little bit during their planning period, perhaps, to talk with them about what lessons are forthcoming in the curriculum, where they might see you jumping in, next steps, things like that. And for you to get a footing and learning that observation isn't just about sitting in a chair in the back of the classroom. It's about jumping in to be helpful wherever you can, which is standing up, watching, observing. If students are doing seat work, rotating behind them, looking over their shoulder, as long as the classroom teacher is willing to let you do it, answer questions for them if you know the answer. That's part of building that rapport and getting familiar with what's going on and kind of getting rid of those first week, first month jitters about being a teacher in a classroom with 25 to 30 young souls dependent on you every day. It can be nerve-wracking in those first few months.
Yeah, we always say, to all of our, like, whether it be you guys in the 810 for observation or our undergrads for 100 and 200, just jump in with whatever your CT asks you to do. They might ask you to pull out a student, for some one-on-one with them. Just be, take in all those experiences and the things that they're asking you to do. But, walking around, making sure that people are staying on task, just whatever that they would like for you to do to assist them.
And I will just throw this out there on behalf of the CTs. When I'm in a classroom myself for other purposes, and sometimes I'm in classrooms to observe the classroom teacher, believe it or not, for their licensure renewal or things. The worst thing in the world that I can see is one of our students walking in for observation, sitting down in the back of the room, and an hour later, they're still in that chair in the corner, maybe a little bit on their cell phone, maybe taking a few notes, but really just sitting there like a lump on the log. You just can't see things well enough from the corner of the classroom in a chair on level with the students' desks. So be brave, okay? Be brave.
I will also say that if you have the flexibility, depending on what your job situation is, 60 hours is the requirement. If you have the ability to do more than 60 hours, do it. I mean, that CT is going to love it if you're there more frequently to assist. And just the more experience you can have in the classroom, the better. And it may be even that, and there might even be the opportunity of, you might do those 60 hours in that room, but, you might say, hey, can I go and sit in on another class, another teacher, just to get a feel of how they do things, if they're willing. Take advantage of any of those opportunities if you have the ability to.
Okay.
And think of this as a long job application.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, the school districts, HR, I can't tell you how many calls a week I get to say, hey, we're thinking about hiring this person. They haven't referenced you, but can you tell me whether they're a safe bet and what you think about them? So I'm always giving off the cuff references, and I'm sure Brandy gets those same calls. So you're in a long job application, even with all of your course professors, because we're out there in the schools all the time, moving around and having a lot of informal conversations with school principals, assistant principals, hiring staff.
In the text box, I think you had followed up saying about wanting to, is it too late to change to elementary? I'm presuming that she would just reach out to Treva to Miss Macy?
Actually,
that
reach
who's-
out to me.
Okay, there you go.
Send me an email requesting the change, and I'll do the back end research. And if it can be approved, all I do is shoot an email to Graduate Studies, and they do it within an hour or two. So it's a very quick process. There's nothing you have to do except make the request to me as the coordinator in an email.
Tina, to answer your question, once you complete the MAT degree, if you have an MBA and you are potentially wanting to know about teaching business, you might be able to do proficiency after that. And because of the courses you took for your MBA, there's like you put a portfolio. It's just a different pathway of getting a certification. You would reach out to us or whomever, whatever university that does proficiency, and it's a portfolio that you put together that shows all of your background on what you've done for that content. And a committee is put together of like a content expert. April, or Dr. Luckley, you can probably speak to it better than I can even. And there's 3 people, and they look at everything, and then they determine what, if any, additional courses you need to be recommended to get that certification. Sometimes there's no additional courses, and it's just you simply taking the praxis, and that's their recommendation. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 classes. That would be look into once you complete your MAT degree, if you would like to, potentially add on a business certification. Connor, yeah.
Sorry to ask another question.
No.
My teacher in 5th grade limited me to 5 a day because I asked so many. But she didn't actually keep me to that. Sorry, that made it sound like she's a bad teacher. I promise she let me ask more than 5 questions. But with wanting to transition into option 6, though I'm not in option 6 right now, would I be able to log the hours that I'm teaching?
So what I do, and I'm not sure if Deshana sent this to you in an email or not, but if those of you guys that are in that predicament that lands in the first semester, I allow you to go ahead and do that your first semester. But if you don't take and pass that exam before the end of the semester, then I can't let you keep going without being in a traditional placement. Okay. So that's how I have decided to do it within my office. So so you got to get it in and got to get it taken and passed, or we can't transition to option 6.
And then forward. Those 3 lessons that get observed by my
3 lessons in total, 2 observed by your EKU person and 1 by your district person.
Is there like a specific requirement for those types of lessons, or
we have a lesson plan template that you utilize, but in terms of what you're teaching,
it just needs to be 3 lessons that
go along with what content you're teaching that your school, like your particular district, requires.
Now, since I am full-time in a classroom, I know you said the first 20 need to be.
That won't be applicable to option 6 or people that are teaching.
Could I submit my first lesson like in a couple weeks and go ahead and get 1 out of the way, or is that too early?
So it's fine, but you need to get with your cooperating teacher, or I guess for you, your district person or your EKU person, to determine what works for them. It's all about you all working as a team to determine when you're going to do it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, they'll observe the lesson, so it's not just the lesson plan. I didn't know if that was clear. Like your CE will come into your school and observe you in your teaching role.
So it's not like one where I would record it and then send it in. It's like they're okay.
Yeah, they come to you and watch you. Yeah.
God, I'm
And
sorry for my
typically,
person who has to make that drive.
and typically it varies on the CE. Some of them will have a conference with you right after to give you some immediate feedback. Some of them, you know, they'll want to schedule like a Zoom with you or a phone call. I mean, it varies on what that person likes. But you will have a conference, a post, observation conference with them of some sort. To get feedback on what changes to make moving forward.
Okay.
You all, I hate to jump out, but I've got to get on to the bedtime rituals for my daughter. It's almost 7:30, and if you need me, just email me. I'm always available. And don't worry, if you don't know who to email me, and I will forward it to the right person for you. Don't worry about it.
Thank you, Dr. Blakely.
Good night.
All right, so anybody else have questions? And again, don't worry if, we're always here. So, I mean, as soon as this ends, you're like, oh, crap, I remembered and I didn't ask. Just shoot us an email. Anytime you guys, again, start with your CE. If they can't answer it for you, they're going to move to Miss Blankenship. If she can't get that for them, she's going to reach out to Miss Baker. And if Miss Baker can't, she's going to come to me. Like, we're going to get that answer for you and get back with you. We're not going to leave you hanging. So, and if we need to Zoom with you, or, if you want to come meet with us in person, whatever, your phone call, whatever works for you, we can make it work. So, but if there's no other questions, like I said, we'll put we'll get this recording and the PowerPoint on the Canvas shell, and I'll send it out in an email too. And then some of you guys may have already gotten your placements. Others we're working on them. Like we said, we'll get those to you by the end of next week. Those of you guys that are option 6 or are going down that path and are the teacher of record, you guys just keep doing what you're doing and reach out to your clinical educator, or talk with your clinical educator when they reach out to you about, starting to make that plan for when those lessons are going to happen and be observed. But otherwise, unless you have a question, that's it for the night. Again, congratulations on getting admitted to the program. We're excited to have you and excited to work with you over the next, 2 to 3 years. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night. You all stay safe.
Bye.
Yeah,
Stay
stay warm, stay safe.
I wanted to ask a quick question.
Sure, I'll stay on.
So what exactly do I need to ask the principal